we don't do that enough. Empathy is something people think is squishy. People think it's, it's the soft side of things, if you will, but that is human nature, right? So whenever we are designing solutions, we need to make sure we build empathy into the solutions. Whenever we're thinking about serving people, regardless of where they come from, let's try to put ourselves in their shoes and think about what that means to them. Do we really understand what they need, and how do we go about doing it in a better way that actually serves their need instead of how we assume things will be?
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Engatica interview series. I'm your host, Kimberly, and we're really glad to have you join us today. Today, we have with us a very special guest. We have Theodora Lau, the book author of Beyond Good, founder of Unconventional Ventures, and the podcast host of One Vision on the show. Welcome to the show, Theo. It is so lovely to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, before we dive into our crazy interview with Theo, let me tell you something about Engatica. The Engatica interview series is a powerhouse of insights from industry experts and influencers from around the world, a platform that provides the latest news on AI, automation, and technologies that will help you grow your business. Come, be a part of our community where we learn, share, and grow. Well, diving into our interview, Theo, the very first question that we have for you is, how would you define the metaverse? Keeping in mind that's like a really hot topic, and we've heard different definitions from different people, different experts. We really want to know your perspective on this one.
Thank you so much for having me. So it is indeed a buzzword. That's what people talk a lot about. But this is not a new term, though. It was first coined by Neil Stephenson in his book Snow Crash back in 1992. I had a copy of it somewhere. I should have brought it. And for him, the metaverse was a place where digital was replaced by where digital replaced the physical experience. But lately, the virtual world that we call the metaverse actually came after Facebook rebranded themselves to Meta. I think that was when everything just went haywire. By and large, I would say the metaverse is an immersive virtual space that could be the future of the internet. It's bringing the physical and the digital together. Someone called it the phygital, an interesting way of coining it. The reason why I say it could be the future of the internet is I would argue what we see today is not where it will be. We're not quite that yet. We're just still in the very, very beginning of it. And so it's hard to put your arms around something that doesn't quite exist, is it? So it's still morphing, and it is exciting and is interesting.
Having said that, how seriously are we taking the metaverse? Have we really started accepting it? How are business faring with it? And how far is metaverse from reality?
We are still in the very, 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 very beginning of the journey. And the one thing I would want to talk about is there's the Web3 metaverse, which that's when everyone is prophesizing about what it will be. But if we take a step back and look at, things that we're familiar with, the Roblox of the world, that's also a metaverse, but that's a Web2 experience. And so if you look at the Decentraland, the Sandbox, they are nowhere close to how the Web2 experience are right now. So there's still a lot that needs to be done. I have been to a quote unquote metaverse concert, virtual marathon, and I remember being in there. I'm like, okay, all right, well, I'd much rather be outside running than being in here. It was just awkward. The graphics isn't quite there. User experience isn't quite there. So I think there's a lot of things we can improve. And for the most part, a lot of the discussions nowadays focus on more of the experiential aspect of metaverse, right? People talk about AR, VR, goggles, wearables, if you will. But for something to sustain, it needs to have utility, not just, oh, this is cool to do. Right. So that's another reason why I think we still have ways to go. We need to think about, for example, interoperability. You can't have multiple different metaverse where you can't go from one to the other. So interop is going to be a big thing that we'll need to look at. Form factor, cost, another thing, features, right? Why do people want to go there? It has to have something to bring people in and keep them there so they keep coming back. So yeah, we have ways to go.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for your views on this one. For the first time ever, we've come across the term smart apparel. Which technologies will make it a successful concept? How much time we'll have to wait for that?
It's I think it's going to take a while. So let's think of a use case, right? Shirt or whatnot that have sensors that can measure certain things of your body. Well, but for those sensors to actually be accurate and be stable, they need to be next to your skin. Well, why can't I do that with a smartwatch, right? I think that will be much easier than actually wearing something full of sensors on yourself. So going back to not tech for tech's sake, but is there a valid use case for why people want to do certain things? And then next thing is the cost. So
yes, definitely. On a different note altogether, how is AI changing the fintech landscape currently? Where is it headed according to you?
that is one of the most interesting topic that is a little bit closer to reality than the other ones. So I think AI from an implementation perspective in financial services has been focused mainly on efficiency, right? Driving efficiency, improving the bottom line. We have seen applications in the call center, for example, for the last few years where we run into labor challenges. We didn't have enough people. We have too many calls, especially during the original onset of COVID. And so you see more and more organizations experimenting with, well, what can we use AI as a technology to learn? How can we use it to learn user sentiment? How can we direct calls? How can we make things easier and more efficient? So that's where it's been gaining ground a lot from a consumer perspective. We also see AI in lending, microcredit, getting more data set, having a better understanding of the consumer as a user profile, and being able to make decisions for them, extending credit and whatnot. The challenge, I think, where we will see is, especially in the United States, where the regulatory aspect of it, we should and we will be seeing more scrutiny. Is your model transparent? Can you explain it? Can we make sure that we are not creating more biases to certain demographics of people? I think, whenever we start offering something to the consumers, we need to make sure we're not harming them. And so that will be an interesting area to come. But even then, there's still so much more we can do. There's a lot more that we can use AI for to actually use technology for good, to serve more people and serve them better. And I think that's where I would like to see it go.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for your perspective. It was really a fresh one that you brought to the table. Before we conclude the interview, are there any other sound bites you'd like to leave with our audience?
Sound bites. I think one of my favorite words is empathy. We don't do that enough. Empathy is something people think is squishy. People think it's, it's the soft side of things, if you will, but that is human nature, right? So whenever we are designing solutions, we need to make sure we build empathy into the solutions. Whenever we're thinking about serving people, regardless of where they come from, let's try to put ourselves in their shoes and think about what that means to them. Do we really understand what they need, and how do we go about doing it in a better way that actually serves their need, instead of how we assume things will be, especially with rising interest rates, with, we're still experiencing economic downturns. There's a lot of uncertainty. Let's be kinder to each other. I think that will be, if anything, you can remember from the last 15 minutes of discussions, let's remember to be kind.
That is really, really kind of you to say that, because I feel in this race of implementing AI solutions and getting new strategies on board, we actually tend to forget that we are catering and we're going back to ourselves being as consumers. So it is very, very essential to be kind, and especially with conversational automation and all of that, it is really necessary to keep that human touch.
Absolutely. Because, look at you and I, we're talking and we are oceans apart. Technology is just a means to an end for us to connect. So don't forget that.
Yes. Thank you so much, Theo. It was lovely talking with you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's lovely. For more content, subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon so you get access to exclusive content coming from thought leaders from around the world. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you with a new expert soon. Thank you.